Wow, that is a lot of snow. You guys, welcome to the Northwest in the wintertime, where it always snows and the sun never shines. Just kidding, the sun shines sometimes. Welcome to this week's episode of Guns and Cameras, and I am stoked that you guys are here because we have an amazing guest this week. He is the man, the myth, the legend, the visionary, / marketing and media director for Flux Defense. Flux Defense, as you may know, is the company that's manufacturing everybody's favorite micro PDW, also known as the Flux Raider, and this thing is legit awesome, and let me show you why. Reason number one, right? Pretty cool. Reason number two, pretty dope, right? All right, you guys, as awesome as that is, our next guest is more awesomer. Yes, it's a word. You guys, are you ready? I messed that up. Shooters, are you ready? Stand by. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of Guns and Cameras. I'm your host, Joshua Best, and today we are joined with a very special guest. He's pretty much the guy that's helping to make everybody's favorite micro PDW right now. He's also one crazy talented content creator, photographer, videographer, social media manager, expert in all things related to 2A content and media. It is Mr. Alex Aubrey, aka Overtime.Alex on Instagram. Alex, thank you for being on the Guns and Camera Show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, this is really cool. It's not often you get to see a podcast that's specifically geared towards what I do for my living. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, I'm Alex. I live in Utah. I've been working at Flux Defense since 2019, since a couple months after it started. So I've been, in this space for a while doing what I do, but I didn't pick up photography like at the beginning. I didn't even have a camera at the beginning, so it was mainly business operation stuff, kind of bringing what I had to the table for Flux Defense. Now, granted, Flux Defense has split up into a couple different sections now, so we're not only just Flux Defense, we're Snake Staff Systems and Antimatter Industries. We could talk about that a little bit later too, but a little bit of diversification that we wanted to do. I'm married. I've got a kid, a little son, and he's about 14 months old. So that's a huge part of my life. And then hobbies, I like to do everything outdoors as much as possible, but then I also like to play video games. So I've dabbled in literally like every hobby I possibly could to see what I like. And I like a lot of them, so which is a problem if, you're somebody who digs deep into a hobby, you want to get all the gear, and so that could fill up your garage pretty quick.
Dude, no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So currently on a Warhammer 40K kick just because the Space Marines 2 came out, and then the Amazon Prime short video thing came out, and so that's my current obsession video game.
Gotcha. The Warhammer 40K, like the actual tabletop game, or?
No, I haven't gotten that deep. I'm very new to it, but I do like what I see. So no.
Yeah.
But
dude, it's a rabbit hole, man. It's a rabbit hole.
But yeah, that's the general gist of what I'm all about. I guess what I like doing.
That's awesome. So what came first for you? So you said you didn't initially have a camera. So at what point, when in your career path did the cameras, so I guess to summarize this question, what came first, guns or cameras?
Guns.
Cool.
Guns.
All right. So when did you start with guns?
So honestly, not super long ago either. I didn't have a family that had guns, so my parents didn't, my grandparents didn't, nobody had heirloom guns. We never went out shooting because we didn't have them, so I really wasn't exposed to it until every once in a while, in scouts when I was younger, we'd get out and somebody would have guns and we'd go out and shoot. But really, Modern Warfare 1, 2, 3, Battlefield 3, I wish I had like some previous experience, but that was my previous experience, and I dig it. I don't think that's a bad thing. Not until I got to college that one of my roommates actually had some guns, and we would go out and shoot. And even then, I didn't have my own gun. I even past college, I got married, and only then, once I had somebody that I loved enough to protect,
Mm-hmm.
that it even clicked in my head like I not only want one, I probably should get one. So that started me off. Like that was again, that was only like 2 years before I started working at Flux. But
Wow.
I mean, if I look back in my notebooks in like high school and college, like I was doodling guns a lot, so I guess it's always been in my head.
So you said you had roommates that had guns. What was the first gun you shot, and then what was the first one you bought later on?
Okay, first gun I shot, I mean, it's probably like a 1022 for sure.
Yeah.
And first one I ever bought was a CZ P07.
Cool.
That was after, I mean, when you make like a decision as an adult, you go and watch as many YouTube videos as possible about whatever thing you're trying to do. And at the time, I'd watched so many videos and I was like, oh, the CZ P07 is the greatest handgun to have ever been made, or whatever. So I went down that route because I didn't want to get a Glock because everybody had Glocks.
Cool. So right away you were like, I'm gonna not get what everybody else has just because everybody else has it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in that phase in college. I was like, I'm trying
That's okay.
to sneak out here.
We all do that. We all make decisions that way. We'll watch we'll do all the research, and we'll be like, well, everybody else has it, so I'm gonna go my own route. I get it.
Yeah, and getting my first gun for carry too, like I was terrified of the striker gun.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I needed a hammer so I
Mhm.
could at least like have some kind of additional safety on there. So that's the route I went at the time. It's funny I don't have that gun anymore now, but it was a cool start.
All right. So we got guns, kind of where you started. So cameras came after. What was your exposure to cameras? What was your first one? What was it like trying to start from scratch with photography?
That was out of necessity. So I had never really had, I mean, it was the same kind of thing. I've never really had people around me with cameras. Um, it's just that within the first year and a half of Flux, it became very clear that we needed to have way more marketing. Um, we needed to be quick on like going out to shoots with people, but actually having our own camera. And it's not that we didn't have that. So one of the owners, he did film school. He does most of our launch videos and loops us all in with that. But because he's running a business, there just wasn't the time to do the day-to-day stuff, which is what we all know on Instagram. It's day-to-day. So I did a bunch of research and I was like, okay, I'm going to get a camera. I'm just going to buy a used one, and I'm going to start from there because I need to start posting on our Flux Defense Instagram like consistently. Because before then, my only experience with social media was I would like post Battlefield clips like from the game, and I would do that daily. So I had the consistency down. It just wasn't the medium that I was used to. I had to take my own pictures. Back then, I could just like grab clips off my Xbox, upload them, do a little edit, and then I could post that. And back in early Instagram, that worked well because I got, I think, up to 20,000 followers off of just Battlefield clips. I post every day.
Wow.
Then they changed all their algorithms, and then I started working at Flux, and I think I instantly lost like 6,000 followers because people were like, "Oh, you work for a gun company? Guns are bad." I'm like, "But you're following me for Battlefield. Like, you gotta have some at least sense, that you like this stuff."
It's funny how that works. So, what was the timeline? Can you lay the timeline out? So, post grad, first you got married, first gun bought, and then between buying a camera and buying the first gun, you started at Flux. So, how did that job happen?
2018, first gun. And I would take pictures with my phone. I still was creative and posted stuff. I've always been creative in that sense. I don't like consuming media. I like creating media. So 2019, I started at Flux a couple months after the company publicly launched. and then within a year and a half, so probably like in the middle of 2020 or something, uh, I was itching to do more, and clearly that was during like COVID and stuff. So I think I was looking at any other option as well. It's just like, what could I do? What more skills could I learn as I'm less working and more, like work went down a lot because of COVID because our supply chain fell apart.
Yep.
So it was that necessity. So about mid 2020, I got my first camera, which was a Canon Mark II 5D Mark II.
5D Mark II.
It's been a while.
You're good.
Epic camera. I got it for like $350 because it was
Dude.
used. And I went out and I immediately started down the rabbit hole of like gear acquisition syndrome as someone trying to get into photography, and bought so many cheap lenses. I should have just bought one good lens or something like that. But I was lucky. I got my first camera. I got like a quick 2-hour instruction from one of the owners here at Flux, and I borrowed one of the lenses and I just got going from there. I got lucky because that lens that he lended me was a Zeiss 85mm 1.4, and it was older, but man, it was
Nice piece of glass.
yeah, it was incredible. And versus like if I had just gone on my own, probably would have gotten a $200 lens cheap and then work from there. But I think having such a good lens to start with and such a good camera to start with, even though they were all used, I had that dopamine hit, like the immediate gratification. I'd take pictures of things, and as long as it was in focus,
Yep.
I could then go over and edit and do what I really liked doing, which was the editing. So
And you said that was an 85?
yeah, so every
85? Yeah, so that you got
so much bokeh.
oh yeah, the 85 and something that fast. I mean, that's like everybody's favorite focal length
Yeah.
for portraiture. I mean, that's just you almost can't take a bad photo with that lens, which
Yeah,
is yeah, good.
everything looks good. It's just doing product photography. I had to figure out. I had the offset. You got to be far enough back.
Yep.
A good portion of the beginning of learning how to do photos was me on a chair, me on a ladder, pointing the camera
Tried.
down and trying to get my focus right. And that camera didn't have autofocus, not with a prime lens like that. So it was a lot of trial and error of like, how do I work with this specific piece of equipment I have because I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the start. Like I said, I immediately got gear acquisition syndrome after that, where I just wanted to buy every lens out there on Facebook Marketplace.
Yep. No, that's you bring up a good point because I was talking with Liam about this on a previous episode, Liam Ward, and we were talking about how everybody thinks that they get onto this gear acquisition train, right? And they're just watching and seeing and buying everything that YouTube tells them to buy and all the new camera bodies. Like you're just kind of itching for the next camera body to be kind of be on trend almost.
Yeah.
But if you're shopping cameras or you're just starting out right now, right? You have so many great cameras to pick from that are so
Yeah.
cheap. Like the 5Ds, those are professional DSLRs, man.
Yeah.
Like you can't go wrong with those cameras, and you can get them for under $500. Pair that with a really nice
with
piece of used glass, and you're
Instagram.
set. What's that?
Instagram, and especially with Instagram, they don't let you upload the highest resolution possible.
Yeah.
You're stuck to whatever they give you. So it was like a 12-year-old camera at the time or something. I don't even know how much further back it was, but it didn't matter because Instagram was just going to squash the resolution anyway. So I didn't need anything more to start.
Right. Do you still have that camera?
No, I sold it to my brother because he was getting into photography stuff at school, and I was like, all right, it's time to upgrade. So I spent a couple of years with it. I think I spent 2 years. Really got to know it, and then I wanted to do more video stuff, and it just wasn't. It didn't have the modern features that I needed. Mainly, like I wanted autofocus because a lot of what I do is like just documenting type photography and videography, and if I have to set it up and sit there and adjust, I just couldn't. My brain doesn't work like that. I needed it to just capture it.
Yep.
So I went out and found a used Sony A7 III. I sold, well, actually, I traded a Zev OZ9 pistol and a bunch of other optics and stuff to some dude to get that. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm upgrading to this camera now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what was that first couple of you start at Flux? How did just real quick unpack how the whole Flux thing happened? Like one, how'd you hear about the job? What was it like getting the job? And how are things going just from a work perspective for a micro, what do we call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, micro PDW company go.
So, um, okay, so initially looking for a job, I was uh I was working for my family company, just my dad and his uh co-business guy. Um, but I was traveling 5 days out of the week while married, and so I would probably fly to different cities about twice a week. I was constantly gone, constantly on road trips because believe it or not, there's people out there, and this was the job that I would install drapes in hotels. So you have to go to wherever the hotel is, receive the product, install all of the rails, and hang all the drapes. Like somebody's got to do it. I didn't. It's a very niche job, but because of that, you're always gone. So that was the thing. And then at a certain point, I told my wife, it's like I just realized I don't have any friends because I'm never around, and I don't know what to do because I'm gone all the time too. Like sucks. Like we're married, but it doesn't feel like it because I'm gone. So we had a talk one of the nights, and I was like, I think I'm gonna try to look for a new job. And she's like, well, you didn't finish college, and I was like, no, so I don't have a degree. And she's like, well, it's like super hard for people to get jobs. Like you have sometimes people look for months, to find a job they like. And so I was like, well, I got to try something because I do not want to keep going on these trips.
Yep.
So that night, I was just scrolling on social media on Instagram, and I saw one of the Flux posts, and it said labeled South Salt Lake as the location. And I was just like, well, I'm in Utah, and that's not that far. That's like 20 minutes away. Maybe they're local. I didn't know that. Now, granted, back then Flux was very different from Flux now because we had the Glock brace that was out, and as somebody who was newer to guns, like the whole contraption where the brace would pop out spring loaded, it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Yep.
And as a civilian, as somebody who I could put that in my backpack, that was fine because I was new to guns. I wasn't a great shot yet. I think at that point I put about 7,000 rounds through my CZP-07, which is a lot. But I didn't feel proficient enough. I liked the company, it was so new, and I found out it was local. So that very night we had that whole conversation, I DM'd Flux and I was like, hey, if you guys ever want any help, let me know. Like, I'm local. I was expecting Flux to be like a bigger company because I didn't know when they launched or started the business anyway. So I showed up literally the next day because Arias, one of the owners, responded like within 4 minutes of me sending that DM.
Nice.
And I consider myself very lucky because I spent a grand total of 10 minutes actually looking for a job. And
you hold the record. You hold the record for making that decision and then getting a job.
Very lucky and fortuitous, but he's like, yeah, no problem. Like, come in at 10:30 tomorrow, and we'll see what you're all about.
What did your wife think about it? You're like, oh, hey, babe, by the way,
Oh,
you know how it's supposed to take a while? It took me like
2 days later when I was like, I think I have like an actual job. She was just like, I'm just so jealous. Like, I don't understand. But I know now, he saw my Instagram account, and again, at that time, because I was posting Battlefield clips, it was at like 20,000 followers. And I think that was kind of like, it got a foot in the door that I don't know if I would have gotten if it was like, if I had zero social media presence. I just don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that he saw that and then maybe at least saw the effort or something that I put in. and then invited me over. I got there, I was thinking, in my head, I was thinking, look, I'm coming from a small business already. I'm as high up as I can possibly go in that business, and it's not enough, you know.
Yep.
If this company Flux has 10 or more employees, then I'll probably think about it and then try to go some other direction. If they had 10 or less, then I was thinking about, okay, I'll flesh it out, I'll see. So I get there that first day, I go to the building, they have me folding papers in half for the first day, essentially, because they just needed it done. And I was like, where's everybody else? And they're like, oh, it's just us two. And I was like, what? I was like, Flux Defense, like the name definitely made waves when the first videos came out.
Yep.
But I didn't know it was just two dudes. And I also didn't know that they were like overwhelmed, extremely overwhelmed. And so I was like, oh, it's just you two. Like, well, what's this whole building? They're like, no, this section of this garage corner is ours. The rest is a bunch of other businesses. They're letting us be here in this corner just because they're friends. And I was like, no way. This is the beginning of a company. And I immediately was like, hey, whatever you don't want to do, just put on me. Let me do it.
Nice.
You do what you want to do. I'll take all of the BS work. I'll do all the production. Just teach me. I'm a quick learner. I already came from a small business, so I'm already used to like you have to do a bunch of different things. So you don't have one job.
Yep.
So they taught me very quickly, and I just picked up as much as I could. We only had like two products at the time. It was the Flux brace for Glocks and the Flash Mag, which was the little attachment that you put on a Glock so you can have the extra magazine up front.
Yep.
That was like it. So that was how I got that. And here, like 6 years later, we're like 25, almost 30 employees now, and it's crazy how far I've seen it come, but how much the idea of the micro PDW that they came up with, how much that actually has stuck around. And I get it, like for me, I'm biased. I could say like I don't think it's just a hype product, but the idea has been out there forever. Like it's been out there, like 1800s, people putting stocks on revolvers, World War I, people putting stocks on pistols.
Yep.
Because of the legal constraints, yeah, we start off with braces on pistols because that's just how it has to be with the ATF. But having seen how the actual weapon system plays a role within civilian life, but also military and law enforcement, that has really, I don't know. I feel very lucky to have somehow found Flux when it was so young, and I'm continuously lucky to be here. But the micro PDW is a crazy concept.
Yep.
And I do this all the time because I go to all the different shows, the trade shows. I go on the media shoots. That's just been my role ever since I got into photography, was because I added the extra value. So I'd go to all these things. Everybody we'd ever run into and see, it's very few and far between that I'd find people that didn't understand the concept, or at least didn't think it was cool. We all get it. Like, it's not a replacement for a handgun. Never was meant to be. It was more like here's a pistol plus. Here's like an upgrade that you could do if you want more accuracy now. Because not everybody has tens of thousands of rounds to train. And I wish we all did. That would solve the problem. Nobody would need a stocked brace or pistol brace if we all had the if we all had enough training and we all had enough money to fund that training, then everybody would be great pistol shots. But it just comes down to the initial idea was cops suck at shooting. If they need to shoot their gun, it's a lot easier to hit bystanders, innocent people. I think the Vegas shooting was the inspiration for the whole Flux project. Was just cops. Man, it would be nice if they were able to shoot back if they could. Could they really shoot that far with a handgun? What could we do to make that easier for them to make a shot back in an active shooter situation?
Yeah.
So that whole concept I very much agree with. I very much Everyone hates active shooters. Everyone hates active shooters. Like,
Yeah.
there's not like if there's any opportunity to put them down as fast as possible, then yeah, that is the concept. So yeah.
No, that's a. I mean, it is a huge point that you guys bring up, because I think that, again, going back to training,
Mm.
if you're watching this and you have recently bought your first concealed carry weapon, or maybe you just bought your first gun, or maybe you've been carrying for a long time, I would encourage you to take the opportunity to take a class, any kind of class, get some training, right? What I used to carry, I carried a Ruger SR9C. That was my first concealed carry weapon. Carried a first pistol that I bought. Well, that's not true. Second pistol I bought.
Mm.
And then I carried that for a while, and then everybody was, SIG had just launched, like, had rolled out the 365s, and my brother-in-laws all had them, and so I wanted to be a little bit different. So instead of buying the
Yeah.
365, I bought the 365 SAS, which was, I think it was SAS, yeah,
The
stripped down one, yeah,
anti-snag.
anti-snag one or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a bad choice. Don't buy those. Just get the normal, get the normal 365s.
Yeah.
Anyway, I still have it. I'm trying to decide what to do with it. But I took a active shooter training class with that 365,
Mm.
and under stress and being kind of jostled around by the instructor, I could not get on steel inside of like 10 yards, right? And I just couldn't index the gun very well. Plus, it was, it's got that weird recess sight thing. And again, don't buy that version. Just get the normal one. I can't
Yeah.
stress that enough. But I went right away after that training class and got a different weapon and started training on that. Something bigger I could index a little bit better. I got a Glock 19, and that's what I've been carrying ever since. But anyway, bottom line is something like this, right? If your adrenaline has dumped and you're freaking out and it's an active shooter scenario, the last thing you want to do is draw your weapon and then shoot somebody by accident because you haven't trained enough, or you don't have enough, control on the weapon to be able to contribute, right? This is why the Flux is such a valuable option, not only for law enforcement but also for civilian use, is because it gives you just that much extra help getting a good grip on the gun to hopefully improve your accuracy. So if you ever had to, you could. So, yes.
Yeah. And like, we see examples of people who do a great job without that help, right? So like uh, the one shooting in a mall where he pulled out his gun, and there's a whole drill on it now, um,
Yep.
where to make 10 shots, I think at 45 yards, all on target. We don't know if he did make all on target. I don't think he did, but either way, it's a great drill to run with your handgun. And that's what, at Flux Defense, it's very much like, have your concealed carry, which is just whatever pistol you like. Train as much as possible on that. Your secondary in a bag that you actually can carry without looking suspicious, which at least for us is the Raider, is our products. Granted, if we could carry rifles in our backpacks and it looked normal, then no problem. Everybody would be running that, and we wouldn't really even care about our stuff.
Right.
But the fact is, if you have a backpack any bigger than like what every college student with a laptop has, then you have the capability. And if somebody's profiling you or targeting, so you could have something in there, and you're a little bit more suspicious. So, yeah, that's our basic messaging. At least now, we've actually come out with the Raider 365 for the P365. So there actually is one you could put in your pants and conceal carry. As it's barely bigger than a Glock 17 with X300 and an optic. So there's options now, which is good. We're in the golden age of options, and you can pick whatever works for you in your situation.
That is very true. So, you started at Flux. You were there basically at the ground floor of the company. And what has it been like going from, because I mean, Flux took off big time. I remember the first time I saw one, ran one, I think it was at SHOT Show. I think it was at SHOT Show 2022.
Yeah.
Is when I think I saw it at SHOT. And then it was like nobody could get them. and then all of a sudden it's just like it has been exploding.
Yeah.
So as you're working at this company and you're growing the media and you're doing the stuff,
Mhm.
what, take us through what's kind of going through your mind as you're still growing as a photographer.
Mhm.
So as the company's blown up, so is your media. What was that like for you?
That was awesome because more people were actually seeing my work.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, yeah, it was for Flux, but it was still. I've always had full freedom to do whatever I wanted visually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think one time in Flux history of me having my camera have the owners come and said, "Hey, I don't really like the way you took that picture."
Mm-hmm.
That freedom and trust that I have from them lets me do this, but in my style,
Mm-hmm.
which I know not everybody has. So I'm super grateful for that because I don't know, working for other companies who have, let's say, maybe they've been around a lot longer. I know, like Browning, like a company that's been around for a long time, they're
Mm-hmm.
a lot more particular about how their image is. And
Yep.
I just the fact that here at Flux, the boys have given me that trust to just make the image obviously in their best interest,
Yep.
but in my art style is awesome. So more people seeing like the product photography that I'm making. And I'm not the best. Obviously, I'm still a beginner. I'm still watching what other people do and going like, oh, that's new. How do I do that? But
Mm-hmm.
in my twist, it's been really cool. I mean, it is addicting. It is. We're all addicted to social media, and creating content and having people actually see it is even more addicting.
Yep.
Uh, and so it makes me want to keep on making cool stuff. And it was pretty hard because like if I'm creating content, posting on social media, there was a point for months we wouldn't post anything on purpose
Mm-hmm.
because the demand was too high and our production was so screwed up from supply chain issues that every time I posted anything, I would put effort into a cool picture, and if I posted it, it would just be a customer service nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like,
Everybody, hey, where's
"Oh
my
yeah,
thing? Where is it? Yep.
why are you advertising something you can't even sell? Blah blah blah.
Yep.
This is vaporware. Blah 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 blah." And I just wish people knew what it takes in the first couple of years to actually make a business run and
Yep.
actually make product because
Oh yeah.
it is like I always thought service industry was like the hardest thing to never do, and I still believe that. I would never do service industry anymore because that's what I did before.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not know how hard it was to make a successful product um, until Flux.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. We started off. We were one of the first ever to use a material called MJF,
Mm-hmm.
which now is used a lot. It's used by uh, a lot of the newer furniture company, like this furniture for firearms,
Yep.
emissary development, HRF concepts. A lot of those companies that now use that HRF technology, we were one of the first ones ever because we just didn't have the money to make a mold,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have the money or know how to make a machined part out of aluminum. So what did we have to do? We had to go with 3D printing because that was the only thing available.
Mm-hmm.
At least we didn't go with like hobby grade. We went straight to professional grade, um, and it worked. And people actually bought it, and it felt like a good premium product.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was so new, it's a pretty finicky material to use to work with, and tolerances aren't the greatest. They don't hold super great in the same batch that they're in. Not like machining, and people just aren't used to that. They're used to things being machined, being perfectly spot on. And for a growing company like us, all those years when people couldn't get them was because we were just trying to dial it in, and
Yep.
parts were coming back 80% failure rate, 50% failure rate, and we'd have like 50 to sell, and we'd put it out there, and then we'd get 800 emails after going like, "Oh, what? You only put like 20 in stock or whatever? Like you're just sitting on a mountain of them, huh?" And we're like, "No, we're not. We're making as many as possible, barely scraping by, and having so many failure rates, and we didn't really know how to run contracts with manufacturers either back then. We
Yep.
just thought like you just kind of had to eat it if you got bad parts, and
Mm-hmm.
we held on to them for years. We didn't know what to do with them. Terrible, you know. We didn't know. We didn't know. So I guess it's fine, but like we got held back by a couple years by just not knowing how manufacturing works. So partly our fault, partly just it's super hard.
Yeah.
We finally had enough money to get a mold made.
Hmm.
Problem was, and that was for the Raider.
Yep.
Finally got to the point where like we just couldn't make the flux braces anymore for Glocks. We just couldn't. Like, how much money can you put into batches where 80% come back as a failure? You know. So we switched our focus to the flux stuff, which was awesome. We had so much. That was where like our content and our social media and the photography and videography really took off because it was such a cool thing to take pictures and videos of, and everyone we showed it to, they were like, "Whoa, this is crazy! This is super
Yep.
cool." But we made a mold. Uh, got rejected a bunch of times by different mold companies because they were like, "This is too complex of a mold. We can't do it, or if we do it, we think it's gonna fail, and we don't want to take that job on if it's just gonna suck," you know.
Yeah.
So we finally found a company to do it, but within the tenure of the time that we had them run our stuff, they broke our mold 2 times, and for the whole year of 2022, we did not get any parts
Yeah.
at all. And so, because of that, obviously, when you have a good social media presence, but you can make 0 parts, that is, you know, that was just it was a nightmare for that time, and we barely scraped by. But thank goodness I don't know if it's like, things are meant to be, but
Hmm.
we were able to make a new mold with a company that had much more experience,
Yep.
and ever since then, everything's been
Up and running.
production-wise. We've been able to at least make enough units to get them out there.
Yeah.
So now it's crazy. Like SIG, we partnered up with SIG, and so they have their own line of the Raider, which is mind blowing to me. Years ago, I would have thought like what I would have been terrified of them even talking to us
Yeah.
because we thought if they ever wanted to, they could just come and squash us and take the idea.
Yep.
And to actually be working with them in a very there's a lot of trust with our relationship with them. I
Awesome.
would have thought that they would have their own line of our product.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah.
Do you manufacture the Flux, the SIG Fluxes, or do they
Yeah.
manufacture them?
So yeah, they picked their colorway. They wanted to do their special, uh, their pistol, like their
Hmm.
higher end P320 pistols. So once they picked their color, they locked it in. They're like, hey, this is proprietary, and so we make all of those flux frames. We ship them over there. They do all their QC on them,
Hmm.
and then they put their own product into it and then get it out there.
Gotcha. And they fulfill. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
That's so
it's
crazy.
been incredible to. It's kind of like full circle. My first gun, I almost got sold the P320 when I was buying my first gun, and I was like, ah, Sig Sauer. I don't really know much about them.
Hmm.
And now actually working with Sig Sauer, it's a full circle kind of weird thing, and it doesn't make sense, but it's super awesome. It's the same thing as like I used to post Battlefield clips all the time.
Hmm.
Battlefield 2042, it wasn't that great of a game. I wish it was. But they had our product. They had the original MP17 before the Raider. They had that in there as a weapon you could use. I had built every single one of those. I'd QC'd them all. I've shipped them all out. Seeing that in a AAA title video game
Yeah.
was my like full circle.
Well,
And
and is it in Call of Duty?
our Glock brace one is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, crazy too because then I get those games, max out all the attachments on it. The cool thing though, and this is something I just never knew, they have to take all the reference pictures to design their gun in the game.
Hmm.
Pictures I've taken and videos I've taken, I can see that like, whoa, they actually saw that as a reference point and they designed something and put it in the game. And knowing that I had that direct correlation to that end thing that now millions of people can go out and play, wild, super wild.
Yeah. That's so cool. This thing is, I think, one of my new favorites. It's just too cool. You guys, we are halfway through this week's episode of Guns and Cameras, and that means it's time for me to tell you it's been brought to you by 1156 Productions and also by Tokens of Valor. Tokens of Valor is my jewelry side hustle where I take ballistic components and I marry them with sterling silver to create one-of-a-kind, hand-forged, wearable works of art for both men and women. If you guys are interested in getting a piece made for yourself, go to Tokens of Valor on Instagram, send me a DM, and we'll get something started for you. Also, you guys, this is big news. Guns and Cameras now has a live brand and merch store. It's at 1156productions.com. Go to that website, go to the nav bar, click on brand store, check out some of the offerings there, pick yourself up some nice swag. It'll help me grow the channel, support what I'm trying to do here, and I would really super appreciate it. So go do that. We are just about done with this week's episode with Mr. Alex Aubrey, aka Overtime.Alex on Instagram. Alex is an awesome guy, and I really am enjoying some of the information and stories that he's sharing in this week's episode. I hope you guys are too. So while I get back to getting some more time on this Flux Raider, you guys get back into this week's episode of Guns and Cameras, because there's a lot of good stuff coming and I can't wait. All right, here we go, guys. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
And that's like, and I want to go back to a point that you made earlier where you're getting to develop your style in photography and media, but like as you are doing that, you're also building the brand, the look, the vibe, the feel for Flux, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a really cool thing and an opportunity that not many people have, because as professional, like I've talked to and worked with commercial photographers that when they get hired on by a company like Browning, like any of the bigger manufacturers, right, that have, you know, a storied history of like, this is how our photos are shot. You as the photographer have to adapt and make sure that the look is the same as every other photographer that has shot their stuff from the beginning of their brand.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, you're like, you built the look, right?
For the
past
4 or 5 years, I mean, technically, yes, with a lot of help from other creators who just post stuff and let us repost it. But anything that's like posted from us, 99% of them are my photos, and so yeah.
That's very cool, Alex. That's good work, man. That's awesome. And then, of course, yeah, to be on the ground floor or something like that, and to be part of that, that's huge. So good work, man.
Thanks. I do not know if this whole route that I took would have even been possible with any traditional company that has been established, because I just don't think it, like, if it weren't for two business owners, Ben and Arias at Flux, also not knowing how to run businesses and then allowing me to do what I need to do without even knowing how to do photography and running social media, it's like we're all growing at the same time. So I think we all gave each other like the benefit of the doubt, and it's been cool.
That's awesome. So if you're watching this, lesson learned, take it from Alex. If you have a shot working at a small company, it's going to be tough at first and probably not ideal, but give it a shot because it might just turn into something huge. So, hey, Alex, when you were developing your look and learning photography, who were you drawing inspiration from? Was there like, did you have a mentor? Was somebody like reaching out to you? Who'd you reach out to? Who was inspiring you and kind of helped you develop your look?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, I had like a good 2 to 3 hour session with Arias, one of the owners at Flux, where he was just like, here's how a camera works. He's like, if you don't know how a camera works, and anyone with a camera and who does photography knows this, that when you take pictures and you're with people who don't know how cameras work, it looks like magic. So he gave me the fundamentals of just like, here's the things you gotta do, research the rest. So then I hopped on Instagram, I hopped on YouTube, and I did, you know, when you do like your 10,000 hours of like research or like something. I've done, I don't know how many thousands of hours of research on how cameras work, how my camera works, composition, lighting, style, this and that, because I didn't have a college to do that, and I didn't have a mentor really. So my mentors were almost strictly YouTube, taking from just little pieces of nuggets from every YouTuber that I could find. A lot of the stuff maybe didn't apply to me because what I do is very different from portrait photography for people, for faces and for, family pictures or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a couple. So there's a couple of niche ones too. So I don't know if you know Camera Conspiracies, if you ever heard of him.
I haven't.
Very niche. Check it out. He's more of a comedian, but he's also a gear nerd. So there's Gerald Undone,
Yep.
who, again, if I'm looking for like technical specs, that was one of them. There's Simone de Entremont or whatever, however you say his name.
Yep.
He as well, teaching me how to actually use my camera and dispelling myths. In terms of style, GX Ace.
Mm-hmm.
I just anything he does blows my mind. And then as I got throughout the years, just making friends with people in the industry and people who do photography as well.
Mm-hmm.
Homeboy Mitcheller, anything he does, I just like I have to show my wife and go like, how do I capture that? How do I even
Yep.
do anything like that?
I don't. His stuff. I say this all the time because I love Mitch. Mitch is a great dude.
Yeah,
The stuff he does in the airports when he's traveling
yeah, it blows my mind.
always just like blows my mind. I'm like, bro, I just don't think that way.
No.
I just don't. I don't sit in an airport and be like, I'm gonna snag this picture and then have it be like a freaking masterpiece.
Yeah,
And it's just an airport.
yeah.
Dude's Yeah, he's a legendary, man.
So him, I mean, a lot of this is going to be local people because here in Utah we have so many firearm companies. We have so many suppressor companies here. We have all of the creative dudes at Dead Air, all of the creative dudes at Silencer Co., all of the creative guys at Huxworks. There's so much here that we all get together, go on shoots with, we're friends with each other for most of the part, and feed off of each other's work. And I think finding that group of people has been super helpful because now I'm trying to like one up what he posted last week too, not in a bad way, but in a way that it pushes me to be more creative. So at least in my head and what I've done is I take pictures. I do whatever I can with the camera. I mostly do manual settings unless I have to switch to auto.
Mm-hmm.
But what I try to do with the edit is, and the editing is like I think half of my favorite. I think it's my favorite part, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Between loving gear, going out and hanging out with people for a photo shoot, and then editing, I just want to make it look like how I felt at the time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not always realistic, and that's not really my style. I don't like to do just straight realistic. The colors are perfectly on point for what it was in real life. I don't really like sit on those images, but I sit on images that Mitch makes, that GX Ace through video does. Things that make me like feel some otherworldly or nostalgia or something like that. So I tried to put the color into it that would make me feel like it's almost like a dream, like I'm remembering the time that I had taking a picture of it. Because then I gladly would put that on my wall, I don't want just a snapshot like my phone could take. I want something I could put on my wall and be like, I felt that. So
that's the artist in you right there, bro.
yeah.
Let's real quick. Let's jump into some of your work since we're talking about how you like to shoot some stuff. I'm not all the way down at the bottom of your Instagram. I'm kind of at, I think, where right before you started at Flux with some of the gaming stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we'll start there if you're good with that, unless you want to go to the very bottom.
That's fine. I haven't seen all that stuff in a long time.
Yep. I love doing this with people on the show just because it's just like Instagram is really great at giving you a visual record of your portfolio and how you've progressed. So you can see this okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, cool. Excuse me. I'm assuming this right here, is that the first one you bought?
Yeah, that was the first. And I was, trying to blend my two hobbies together.
Yeah. Yeah, matching holster to your controller.
Yeah.
We see a whole lot of the game stuff here for sure. So this picture, this one, just for reference, this was taken April 2nd, 2019,
Yeah.
right? Which is, I think, right before. Did you apply at Flux yet?
That's
Or is this?
before. That's right before.
So this is right before, which is exactly where we wanted to be. So we're going up a lot of,
My
again,
first
video
AR,
games. Is
which
this
was like a Smith & Wesson M&P Sport, whatever.
nice?
And yeah, just getting into guns. It was like my first foray into that.
Yep, crushing all of the, looks like different video games here. Another shot of your carry gun.
That's the first Flux thing I ever. That's the first day at Flux Defense. Is the
Right
one
here.
with the G19. Yeah.
Look at this. May 3rd, 2019.
Yep.
Cool. Maybe the coolest thing I've ever seen is what you said in there, and I think
Yeah.
from there on it's just gonna get wild.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't get a camera for a long time, so.
So this is all probably just cell phone?
Yep, that was cell phone.
Cool. So how do you explain, so when you first got this job and somebody was like, oh, yo, Alex, what do you do? How did you explain your position and who you worked for
Nowadays or back then?
back then?
Oh man. My parents, it took them years to be like, so when are you gonna get a normal job or like a real job? They thought this was just like a whatever thing. Like, yeah, he likes guns, so he works for some gun thing. At the time, I was just like, what? First of all, like Flux products are niche. They're niche things. So any of my friends who don't have like firearm knowledge, I'd have to explain. Okay, I just started at a company and I do production and some other things for this product that you're not gonna understand unless you like have a handgun, shoot enough to know what handguns do, shoot enough to know like what specific brands of handguns even are capable of. So yeah, at least we started with Glocks. At least everybody knows what a Glock is.
Yep.
But we got into the SIG stuff, and that's where things really it became more complicated. Okay, so here's a pistol where you can take out the fire control group and you can put the grip module away and then you can put it in our stuff, and then I have to explain our stuff. It was a nightmare, and it still is. When we go to family functions or whatever, like meet up with old high school buddies, they're like, so what is it again? Like, I don't know how to explain it fully. Like, you just gotta get into guns more, or I try to get my buddies into guns more that are my high school ones that weren't.
So we're looking pretty, consistent here, and then we get this. This is pretty artistic.
Yeah, that was me. Experimenting with editing styles. So I would take like screenshots. Like that's a screenshot from Modern Warfare 2019, and I would pump it through a filter to make it like cartoony, just to see what that would do. And then I did that with Flux for one post, and I was like, all right, I don't really like this. It's cool, but
I think I've done that exact tutorial, trying to take and like turn into to give a comic book look to
yeah.
some pictures.
So you can see it slowly going like 50-50, Here's what I do for work, and here's what I do at home for fun.
Well, and there's a pretty dramatic, like right here, right? We got a ratio of gaming stuff to photography, and then it almost like drops right off the gaming stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
At least for a little while here. So we got a couple of posts.
I love early. Also, I always look back at like beginning gun.Alex and understanding.
Yeah.
I go like that's just everyone's journey. Is like you start off pretty cringe, at least trying to figure out how to set up guns and this and that.
Yep.
I feel like now I'm ruined because I'm the person now who I watch a movie, I'm like, well, that's not accurate for. Why do they have that stock on that gun at that time period they're trying to portray? That's not real. Like,
Right.
And I hate that it would become like that, but also it's like, well, it's the burden of knowledge.
Where are we right now? Have you got a camera yet?
No.
Like the 5D, or are we still doing silly stuff?
This is still just my iPhone, and this was also me I was getting more creative at the time because I was starting to fall into my own like.
Yeah, like we got some stage stuff here, right?
Yeah,
Some
there was
lighting.
like those were stickers that I drew myself because I started a little side business.
Nice.
Um, but we're right about the time where I got a camera, and you'll see when you see like the first picture that I took that you could tell is a camera, which is that one right there. I think it's that Raider. Yeah,
I was gonna say there we got bokeh here, or
yeah.
bokeh, so that looks like an actual image.
And I remember editing this thing. It was so underexposed because I didn't understand exposure yet
Yep.
that I had to bump up in post. I had to like bump up that exposure so much to get it to be visible, but still like not super grainy.
Yeah.
And then,
Then look at
yeah,
this, man. Then we're off to the races.
yeah, at the beginning, and that's why they'll all be kind of the same. That 85 mil Zeiss lens
Yep.
was just obliterate the back, blur the back so hard.
Yep.
Get that, and I always kept it at 1.4 too. I never bumped it up back then. And I still stick to one lens. I don't between product photography and going out in the field and like going on photo shoots that we go on for collabs. I only use one lens. I have a bunch of other lenses. I just don't use them, and it's because I
So, what's the one lens?
70 to 200.
Yep.
So I started with a Canon 70 to 200. I bought it for $600 used, and I started there. And I realized that at least for my style and what I do, I could not go with a wider. I can't go with a wider lens. I still I could try. I just don't do it.
Yep.
I've tried spending full days on like a 24 mil or a 50 or a 35, and I just don't. I don't get what I want out of it.
Yep. Yep. I love the I love the 70 to 200. That's I carry that one with me all the time. I usually I'll shoot on a 24 to 70, and then I carry a 70 to 200, and that's usually between those two lenses. That's where I'm at. I don't I actually like the restrictions. I think that you, as an artist and as a photographer, are more creative when you limit yourself and say, "Hey, I'm only going to do this with one lens."
Yeah, it pushes
Um,
yourself.
Yep. And
The
look at this.
what I notice, at least for what I do,
There's your 70 to 200 right there.
yeah, what I do, I like tight shots.
Yep.
I really like tight shots, but I've noticed the more that I go do photo shoots that there are so many photographers at bigger photo shoots.
Yep.
It's a mix of two things. I know I can't be the closest one to the subject. And so if I'm using a wide lens and I'm like 4 photographers back, I can't get the shots that I want to get because there's all these dudes in the way.
Yep.
That's fine. They got to get what they need to get. I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to snipe and I'm just going to rock in with my 70 to 200, get the shots I need. And it's basically like I have to do that or else I have to be right up in the face and I have to knock other elbows with other photographers, and I don't want to do that because everybody's doing their own thing, you know?
Yep.
So it's a mix of that. It's also that mix of like liminal spaces. I like getting the subject.
And I think the thing is though is I agree with you that and on that, and I think that you also get a nice foreground. I think that people don't. I was talking to Mitch about this on his episode about having nice foreground elements, right, moving around.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes those other photographers, it's almost it's not like a gotcha, but it's almost kind of like, hey, thanks for getting in the way and giving me a nice foreground blur on on a third or whatever that brings a lot of depth into the images. So it's being the first guy online and being right up tight is not always the best place to be.
So you see
Speaking
that?
of Mitch.
Yeah, you see the gas station one?
Yeah.
We had a super foggy day. This was like a month and a half ago, or a month ago maybe.
Yeah.
Super foggy day. I had my camera in the car. This is like without a mist filter or anything. This is just a foggy day. Took my picture. My wife is sitting in the car like, you look so dumb. And I go out and I'm like taking pictures. I was like, nobody's here. I have to take advantage of this. Like, this doesn't happen often. I take this picture and I just go like, who else do I know that's here in Utah that's taking their camera out and taking pictures of this? Mitch was in town. I knew it. I was like banking on some of the other dudes just being like, you had to have. Like, once you saw the opportunity, you had to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's there was a dude that I think I saw it on a video somewhere of just like photographers that, because it happens to me, and I'm sure it happens to you, and to probably everybody else, where you'll be driving somewhere, you'll be running through town, and you'll be like, "That's a good picture," like, and you'll just see them. And I do not stop often. I mean, if I stopped for every time I saw one of those pictures, I'd never get anywhere because
Same.
it's
So
you always see it. But,
I turn a 6-hour drive into a 9-hour drive
yep.
by stopping at all the different places, and
Yeah.
this is one of my favorite pictures ever.
Right here.
Yeah,
When was this one taken? Let's see.
a couple months ago.
So, bro, you have like video game inception, my friend. You started out playing the games, and now you're freaking in the game. Like you're
That's
shooting.
Battlefield right there, 100%. Like,
Dude, 100%. Robots, freaking kitted out operators. I mean, come on.
what you can't see is the 3 other photographers in front of me, and the drones all trying to get the same shot.
Yeah, no kidding. Wait,
And
there's a foreground element right here. Is that a photographer? I feel
I
like
did
exactly
have to
what
edit
that
out
is.
the lens on,
Yeah,
on the left side. Yeah,
There you go. We were just
Um,
talking about that. Makes the picture better.
yeah.
That's cool, dude.
So I was sitting pretty far back on that one.
Nice, man. Great work. Great work.
Thanks.
Very cool. So what's up next? What are you stoked about? What do you got coming up that's getting you excited?
So what I'm excited about personally and with Flux is we've spent all these years being jacks of all trade, just wearing so many hats at once, and I didn't start off with the photography, but now that's what I want to do all the time. And we've run our whole marketing off of me and my buddy Jake, who's also part of customer service.
Mm-hmm.
One day a week we would go out and shoot. That's it. And then we would have to subsist. We have to subsist off of that one day a week. Now, we didn't even do that during work hours. We would go after hours and go do all of the shots we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's been for years. And we're finally at the point now, and we even had meetings about this. It's like, hey, it's about time we start dedicating more than one day to marketing
Nice.
a week. Right? So right now, like going forward, this next year is already dedicated to 5-10 times the amount of photo shoots we would have done beforehand.
Awesome.
5 to 10 times more events to go to than we've ever done. We've always been running off a tight ship where I have to answer customer service emails. I can't be out there doing photography every day.
That's
Just
right.
never was a reality that we could do. So finally getting to the point as a company where I can dedicate to marketing is like all of my stuff that I've taken pictures of already, that I've posted, that I feel really good about. I always think, how can I ever take cool pictures again? Like,
Yep.
how? And I'm not saying like top my work, but how am I gonna be creative again in the way that was?
Yep.
And I get those doubts, and then I end up going on some trip and coming home with some of the craziest pictures I've ever taken, and just going like, I need to put that on my wall, or I need to. And it's not lost on me that like when we show pictures, especially when I take a really good picture and I know it's good, and I spend my time editing,
Mm-hmm.
and I show it to the people who are in it, and see their minds blow, and see them going like, I want to put that as my wallpaper or this or that.
Yep.
I'm excited to get a lot more of that, because that's, I think, the addicting part. Social media is great, but when somebody in person in real life, you take a picture of them and they just go like, "This is the coolest picture I have of me."
Yep.
I like providing that to people. So I'm excited. There's so much for us to do, and I've never really had the time that I'm about to be given to go out and do that. So
Well, I'm super looking forward to seeing what you come up with, because I think that again, you got a product that just looks cool, right? And I think that's a big thing. Is it helps having something that, I mean, look, I got mine right here.
yeah.
I just got mine. I'm
Oh,
working on it.
nice.
It's getting there. I got on the 14th. I get to go pick up the FCU, and I'm gonna put an X5 slide on there.
Dude,
And
nice.
it's going to be sweet. And again, the big motivation for me to want to put this thing together is, one, I shoot Glock a lot, but I wanted to I've always wanted a SIG, so I got a SIG, a P320. Always wanted the Raider, so I got one. We put one together with mostly the motivation of just being able to shoot pictures of it because it's such a freaking photogenic
We're lucky. We're lucky that way. It's a
product.
unique form factor.
Oh yeah.
Um, if you see the shadow of a Raider, you know it's a like you know it's a Raider,
Yep.
and that's what I think. Uh, Nick over at Dead Air, he
Yep.
came by our shop one time. He told us that he's just like, you realize you've created a new form factor. Like everyone knows what it is from the shadow.
Yep.
I was just like that. I didn't think about it that way, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and there's just so many different ways. One, you have that from the form factor, but also just being able to have something different than an AR or just a normal pistol to be able to put optics on, different suppressors on, different, lights on, different lasers on, different, it's, I think, yeah, I don't think that the Flux momentum is going to be slowing down anytime soon. And you guys just being able to crank out product and now more marketing is just going to accelerate that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
just,
And we now have, I mean, two other massive projects in the works for this new year.
hmm
So like, I don't know, all the hype that we have had up to this point and people who love our stuff, this next year is going to, I think, double, triple, maybe more our following.
Oh yeah,
So
100%,
yeah,
dude. And then yeah, dude, sky's the limit, bro. Like,
dude, there's
it's
no,
not slowing down. I mean, it's like they're always gonna be making more video games. They're always gonna be making more movies, right? All those movies are gonna want to have cool products in it, and it's
yeah,
just gonna be you're riding this wave, man. And I
yeah,
can't wait to see where it takes you.
yeah.
It's
And
gonna
at
be
least
sweet.
for this product concept, every new pistol that comes out is, guess what? Has a fire control unit you can remove from the grip. It
Yeah,
is
the
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 future.
modular systems are not going away. I mean, it's just a matter of time before every major manufacturer of handguns is going to have a modular platform of some kind.
Yeah, and
So,
we're just happy that we got on it.
yeah, because they're not going to start
One
from
of the first
scratch.
ones.
They're going to call you guys up and be like, "Yo, we got a modular FCU coming out for a handgun system we're building. How do we get one of your products for our FCU?" Is going to be the question. So,
Yeah, exactly.
it's going to be
That is
huge.
a quarter of our customer service requests. Hey,
Oh,
do
no
you
doubt.
make it for this pistol?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. We're a little over an hour. I don't want to keep you too much longer here. I got a lot more questions for you, obviously, but for the sake of time, there's one question that is very reoccurring in every episode. That's the oh shit moment question. Could
Yeah,
be a good moment, could be bad. Everybody has one.
yeah.
Guns or cameras related. What is your oh shit moment, Alex?
Guns or cameras related.
It doesn't have to be. It could be something else too.
No, it was good. There's one. I left my lens on top of my car,
Oh.
because I was swapping it to a different lens, and I left it up there,
hmm
and I didn't remember that I left it up there until I had already like started driving away, and I thought like it's my 70 to 200, the one I use
This.
for everything, like the one I
Yep.
spent the most money on. And I was like, I really, really hope it's there. And I remember stopping the car, getting out, and it wasn't.
hmm
And driving all the way back up the hill, finding it on the ground, and just being so grateful that there was nothing wrong with it.
Ooh. Yeah,
That
that's
was
a
what recently, and that's, if you know
that's a good one.
cameras, you know how much like fear that.
Yeah, no, dude. That's a good one. I haven't had one like that before. Well, I mean, not specifically dropping a lens like that, but yeah, the thing about dropping lenses is that it's the big crashes that you're like, oh, something's for sure broken, and you pick it up and you look at it and it's fine.
Yeah,
It's the little teeny tiny ones from like 2 feet
yeah,
that just devastates the lens. Um, I had never dropped a lens before, and I had a project. I was shooting in a new airport terminal reveal with a company locally,
mhm,
and so it wasn't my lens; it was their lens, and it was a Canon EF lens, which makes it worse. But it
yeah,
was inside the bag, padded bag. Lens was there,
mhm,
and I was pulling it out of the trunk, and just slipped the grip on the bag, and it dropped 1.5 feet to the concrete from the trunk, like just plunk. And I was like, oh dang, sorry guys, I'm sure it's fine. We get in and we shoot the whole. I shoot the whole thing, and it wasn't towards the very end that I'm realizing, like, hey, I have a little bit of feathering, like almost like a vignette in the image, but it's just like a feather. And I thought it was like, hey, cool. Like I kind of dig that. Like, and it was only when I was wide. If I punched in on this lens, because it was like it was a 24-70, I wouldn't notice it. But when I went wide, I would see it. And then I'm taking some of the last photos of the day, and I look towards the front of the glass, and the whole front element of the lens is just cracked right out of it.
Oh man.
And I'm like, oh no. And I go to them and I'm like, is it insured? If not, I'll pay to cover it. But it was insured and it was fine. But then I had one the other day. We were shooting down at the Staccato Ranch in Texas, and I was working with a guy, and he was running one of my cameras, and I'm like, here's the camera, just be careful. He puts it on the tripod, goes to move the tripod, but just grabs the tripod, doesn't grab both.
Yeah.
And the camera it wasn't locked down, and it took a fall straight onto the lens from about 6 feet.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, nothing is broken. So, and I'm like, whew. And it was like, $8,000 or $9,000 camera rig, just straight onto the ground. And it wasn't his fault. It was an accident. Accidents happen. Yeah. Everything's insured. That's why we have insurance. Yeah, dude, crazy. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that your oh shit story did not end with a broken lens. Yeah. That would have been a bummer.
I have one more short one.
All right, let's hear it.
A couple years ago, we do a lot of this. We go hiking. We take long guns or rifles with us, and we hike way up into the West Desert. We shoot. Nice. I take pictures. It's a lot of fun. We do that just like for non-work things. I take pictures of things I like. Have nothing to do with work. I just like it, right?
Oh yeah.
So we're out in the West Desert. Me and my buddy Ethan Walters, Gypsy Walters on Instagram, and another buddy named Beaver, who's also Tactical Beaver on Instagram. Cool. We're out in the desert. We're out shooting, and I've got my camera with a Peak Designs clip. I will clip it to my backpack because I can't. Hiking with guns and with the camera swinging around sucks. So having it hard mounted is the only way to do it. We have to park further down this hill because the gate was closed. We're like, that's fine. We climb way up this hill to the top, and we're just out. We're looking at things to shoot at, and way down the line there's a car coming. And if you're in the middle of the desert, like out in the middle of Utah, there's nobody out there. So to see another vehicle pulling up to exactly where we were at, and we're all kitted out, we've got guns, you don't want to be seen. We're like, all right, let's lay low behind some rocks and see what this guy's gonna do. And so he drives, he's on this opposite end, and he pulls in right to where we were at, except we're up on the hill. So we're silent, and he's by himself, and he opens the door, gets out, and I have my camera out too, and he just drops his pants and starts taking a dump. And we're like, oh, dude. So we're like, he has no clue. Like, we're just hiding up in the rocks. And for some reason, I was just like, I'm going to take a picture there. So,
please, yes, awesome.
So he's squatting, and he's like, I can tell, he was like rummaging around. He didn't have toilet paper. He was just trying to find things in his car to like wipe. So I take a picture, and I immediately go like, I can't keep this. I can't keep this picture. I got to be responsible somehow, and I should have kept it, but I don't know. Dude. So I deleted it right then. I was like, this guy, it's his privacy. He thinks he's out on his own, but I've just got a picture. I had a picture of just him taking a dump. Hops back in his vehicle, drives away, and then we just get up and just laugh, and we're like, what are the odds? And I was like, if we got his license plate, we could send a note, be like, we know exactly what you did at these coordinates, and just scare him. But we didn't. It was just a good memory, and I just remember that being one of those pictures that I took that I was like, I can't keep this.
That is the definition of an oh shit moment right there.
Yeah.
That would have been. Dude. What would have been hilarious is if you had captured it with, posted up one of your dudes like in a tactical position with him in the
Yeah.
foreground and then that guy taking a dump in the background,
Oh yeah.
and then black barred his face or something and turned it into this. That'd be
Yeah.
too
No,
good.
it was a good.
That's funny.
Yeah. A
That's
little bit of
crazy.
reconnaissance, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, let's see. What else could I ask you? We could go a little bit here if you're down.
Yeah.
Maybe another 10, 15 minutes. Um, what what is something that if you could give somebody some encouragement, and I know that probably in your mind you're still just starting out, but
Yeah.
you know I think you're on the fast track to. I mean, obviously Flux is blown up, and your work is blown up as well. But what is a piece of wisdom or something you could pass on to somebody just starting out in photo in guns and camera space? Something you wish you knew then that you now know.
Oh yeah. Um, Stuff that I wish I was told was just like use what you have right now instead of. I'm sure you get. I'm sure you hear this all the time. The grass always greener on the other side. Always chasing gear,
Hmm.
thinking that that's gonna make the difference, or that's gonna. Oh, once I get that piece of gear, then I'll take these kinds of photos. And it's really just do it with what you have. Don't constantly try to swap things out at the beginning. Further in, once you start figuring out how everything works, yeah, sure, it's fine. At your artistic disposal, do whatever you want. I would have told myself to not buy every lens I could find within every paycheck from Facebook Marketplace, and just invest in like one good
Hmm.
one good lens, and work with that, or get a cheap lens and then build up that little bit of savings until you can get a better one. I straight up had like 10 lenses, every focal length you could think of, and blah 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 blah, and I didn't use any of them. I used the one I had at the beginning. I
Yep.
used. So that would be one piece of advice, and then the other one is um, stop the car. Actually, stop the car when you see the shot. Even if it's on the freeway, I've done that a couple times recently. Is just like I can't let that one go, and you'll be happy as long as you don't overexpose or underexpose it so hard. You'll be happy you stopped, because the pictures that I got along the way to a shoot are some of the ones that I like hold tightest, because it's just a memory that I have of
Hmm.
mine. It wasn't a shared memory. Um, so if I blow something up and put it on my wall, I'd be like, yeah, there's a story behind that, and that was just me stopping on the freeway and finding a thing and taking a picture. And it turns out landscape can be really cool when it's not your main focus. It's a good side quest thing.
True. I think it's really awesome to hear. Liam had the idea. I didn't think about it. Liam had the idea a couple episodes back. Liam Ward had the idea of
Yeah.
doing an exhibition, doing like an actual show for
Hmm.
print. Because I love one of my things is I love printing photos. I think that's I don't know if I'm old school in that, but if I have a photo I like to print it because you consume it differently when it's not on a screen, right?
Yeah.
Light impacts that image differently. It's a little bit of a different skill set. And so it'd be interesting though to choose if you had to pick out of your body of work
Hmm.
images for print for a show, what type of pictures you would pick, right?
Yeah.
If it would be the professional ones or if it would be some of those where it's like I stopped on the freeway to take a picture of a cloud or a tree or whatever it was you saw in the photo.
Yeah.
If those would be the ones you would choose or if it would be something different. But that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Take the time to stop. Well, Alex, this has been a great episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to kind of tell us a little bit about your story, your journey. It really is only just starting because
Yeah.
I don't think are going to be taking any breaks, man. I think if you have the time and Flux is like, go take pictures,
Hmm.
you're going to be one busy guy. So
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time to be on Guns and Cameras. Who are, if you got them at the top of your head, who are three people from your network that you think might be good guests on Guns and Cameras?
It's funny because like a lot of the dudes that I know, I'm just like I keep seeing them pop up on this podcast. Like Liam, like I spent a little bit of time up in Wisconsin, and we drove down to Vortex, and he was there, and it was awesome to hang out with him for a little bit. So it was funny. I was like, I know Liam, I know Mitch, I know a lot of the dudes from Colorado, just because we're not far. But I don't know if you've done it, but Miles Mortensen
Okay.
is
I haven't
awesome.
had Miles.
He is awesome. You have?
Have not.
Oh, okay. He's awesome. He's freelance, but he does very good work, and I kind of look at him and look at some of the gear he uses and go like, all right, that actually solves a problem I had, where I see people using kit and stuff that solves problems that I didn't know that there were answers to. So he's a really good one. Man, Mitch would have been number one for sure. But we got Arias, honestly. Arias, one of the owners of Flux, would be a really interesting one.
Cool.
He went to film school. He didn't finish, but what he did for Flux, which was the initial launch videos and most of the launch videos, which we only have like one a year, maybe 1 to 2. The creativity that he has and the ability, and he knows like a science, how to convert it into visual excitement.
Nice.
I would be really interested to see like what his history is, because we just don't get to talk as much, even though his office is on the other side of this wall about photo stuff, because we're talking about work stuff all the time.
Oh yeah.
So those Miles and Arias would be pretty cool.
Cool. All right. Well, if you have time and you think about it, maybe just warm them up. Let them know I'm going to be after them and send them my way.
Dope.
Well, Alex, holy smokes, this has been awesome. Thank you so much again for taking the time to hang out and, again, share some of your info. You're doing incredible work, so keep it up. If you ever need a resource for photo, video stuff, let me know. I mean, you're surrounded by incredible talent, so I'm sure you have a list of dudes you could call, but I would love to be a resource to you if you ever have questions or need help. Just let me know. But yeah, man, can't wait to see what you come up with next. You guys, if you don't already follow Alex, go to Instagram right now and search for Overtime.Alex. I'll put the graphic up right here. You're probably shadow banned, so you may have to type it all out exactly that way. Yep. But yeah, go give him a follow. Tell him how awesome his work is. And if you don't follow him, also go check out Flux, because that sounds like you got a lot of your work up there as well. And that's just Flux Defense. So follow both of those pages. Yeah, this has been Guns and Cameras with Alex Aubrey, aka Overtime.Alex. Alex, thank you so much for being on the Guns and Cameras show.
Thanks.
You guys have a great week. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming.
Woo-hoo. Man, I love this thing. I am out of bullets, you guys, and just like that, it is the end of this week's episode of Guns and Cameras. It's okay, I know you're disappointed, but don't worry. There's more coming in a couple of weeks. A whole new episode, whole new guest. Anyway, I digress. You guys, thanks for hanging out and listening to this week's episode with Mr. Alex Aubrey, aka Overtime.Alex on Instagram. Alex is doing some incredible work for Flux Defense on the media marketing side. So if you don't already follow him, be sure to go to Overtime.Alex on Instagram. Give him a follow, send him some DMs, tell him how awesome his work is, because it is just that awesome. And just like that, it's really cold. There's a lot of snow. I'm gonna pack up, load out, and head home. But you guys should stay tuned for what's coming next at Guns and Cameras, because we got a lot of great guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Be sure to go to 1156productions.com and buy some merch. And also like, share, subscribe, follow, leave a review, all that stuff, because it'll really help me out. All right, that's all I got. I'm gonna go home now, you guys. Peace. Have a good day.